All right. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. All right. Before we get cracking here, boy, if you thought the last sessions were work sessions, this session is a whole new level of working. So please make sure that you've got your pen and paper available because we'll be doing a lot of work together for you. So that would be super great. That would be fantastic. Is it hot summer for you, Ed? Woolly hat. I'm just wearing it in sympathy for my Northern Hemisphere neighbours. So there you have it. Pardon me. There you go. That's the type of stuff you learn here on this course. That type of vital information. All right. So let's figure out, where are we at? Okay, so last week we talked about our the Japanese concept of ikigai, and how looking at the things that you love, the things that you like, the places, the things you get paid for, the things that the world likes, and having a look at all those four things and looking for a market in those four things is going to set you up to be much more intrigued and to give you a much better motivating sort of moving forward force than you would if you're just using willpower alone, because we know the science is in, if you have to rely on willpower for any activity, it's not going to work. There's only three things that we can impact, which we also learned last week, which is our environment, the place where we work and the resources that we use and the tools that we have. That's all comes under the word environment. Our body, and in particular, this case, the energy our body has, because a lot of people, in fact, I would argue the vast majority of people doing the course here today are people who have many, many other commitments. So having the energy available is very important. And so the third thing, of course, is time, how we manage our time, which is also critical, because unless we can build up a momentum of doing these tickets, doing these items of work, and don't worry if you're not quite clear what a ticket is, because you'll have tickets up the wazoo after today. So the ability for us to be able to implement and execute on these tickets is very important. And I miss saying that with Ikigai, the other thing that is very, very important is to be able to make sure, I'd like you to get your business up and running and making money as quickly as possible. And as you'll see today, there are various times in the recipe process where we have to do a taste test, right? We have to taste and we go, is this working? No. Do it again. Taste, is this working? No. Do it again. Taste, is this working? No. Add more seasoning, right? There are many points in cooking where a professional chef does that. You don't often see that. Most amateur cooks don't taste their food, right? Which is like, as you're cooking it, most people who are cooking the food rarely taste it, particularly people who are starting out with their cooking, right? Guess what? People who are building their business don't do. They don't experiment. They don't test the seasoning. Why go and build this entire, create this entire new recipe if we're not sure that these two ingredients are going to combine? Why not test that the two ingredients will combine properly? And if they don't, what can we do here? What combining agent could we potentially use? Some flour? Could we use maybe some baking soda? What combining agent could we, some gelatin? What combining agent could we use to meld these two ingredients together? But you wouldn't do that as a master chef already from your in front when you're serving a dish to your restaurant. Nor would you, when you're choosing a market, would you go barreling forward, creating products and doing all those things until you've tested important elements of the market first. And so that's where we are today. So here in session 3, we are going to now break down the market process, right? If you recall, let's go back to that slide. You'll recall that the salt, acid, fat, and heat of our building a business process is market, traffic, conversion, and product. Now, at the moment, we are here. Well, we're here to be specific. All right, we're at this starting line. So we've picked something, and our starting line is we've picked something that is in our Ikigai and has some prospect of making dollars. And the prospect of making dollars is, of course, having proof. And now, if you're in a lucky situation, you may have 2 or 3 different things that potentially you have 2 or 3 different markets which meet all that criteria. If that's the case, great. That is fantastic. Pick one. Right? From now on, in our first part of our recipe, when we break down what we're going to do today, which is breaking down our market, we need to focus on one, right? And why do we break down the market and why do we do what we do today? Well, you high fact finders, a lot of you are just, the burning questions. And I got emails all through the week. I got comments on social media, the whole thing, right? Which is, I don't know what product or service. This is the market meets my Ikigai and dollars, but I just don't know what I'm going to be able to deliver. I'm no expert in this area, and I just don't know what I'm going to do. I don't care, because I didn't ask you about products. Where's product in this process? Where is product in this process? Spoiler alert, it's way over here in number 4. And the other, I think the key, if there was one concept which resonated mightily with everybody else, right, in this whole process, if there's one thing that resonated brilliantly with everybody, is the fact that just like for good meditation techniques and good mindfulness techniques, the most important thing that a meditation or mindfulness practice teaches you is to be more present. That we have our, anxiety is a fear of what's coming up, and a lot of people have business or entrepreneurial anxiety, particularly high fact finders. High quick starts tend to be entrepreneurial depressives, right? Because they have lots of regrets of the carnage that they left behind, the projects that they've abandoned too soon, or would that have worked? Or, geez, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I take up that opportunity? Right? That is the way entrepreneurs are. And for this to work, for you to be a good chef in your kitchen, you can't be thinking about the meal that you're going to cook on Friday when it's Tuesday, right? You've got to do Tuesday's menu today. If you try to do that, if you try to think about your Friday menu, guess what? Your Tuesday is going to be stuffed, right? It makes no sense. So it's very important for you just to do what I say, all right? Now, that doesn't work in the confines of Casa Dale here. Nobody does what I say. Nobody. They just ignore it. But you can't be a Buddha. Those who create the Buddha cannot worship the Buddha. Okay, so that's just happened. Yes, hashtag do what Ed says. That is a very good piece of advice. I wish my family would take it. Actually, it's something, really I don't, because when it comes to family stuff, they're always right. And I'm always wrong. Okay. Some of you have been asking, Ed, why are we on Zoom today? And why are we not on YouTube? Well, there's 2 reasons for that. From now on, there will be interactive elements. In other words, I will be talking to you and bringing some of you onto the show, onto the workshop to talk to you, particularly not so much in this session, but in our next session where we have our first ever edition of Ticket Nightmares. Very excited about that, which is modeled on Kitchen Nightmares. You'll be saying, what's Ticket Nightmares, Ed? I have no idea. you are about to find out. The other reason is because I have cool stuff. Right? This is my digital post-it notes and my digital post-it board. And I need to use post-it notes extensively throughout this entire process because we're creating a recipe. And what's cool about this process, I've called it the recipe, but you should be very careful about that, right? The recipe, right? The recipe, it's the recipe for you, okay? And this is going to become very clear because a master chef knows that if they combine, and I can just write on here, if they combine salt, a fat, acid, heat, if they look at any set of ingredients and then consider these 4 factors, they can create a dish, right? They can create a dish which will be excellent to taste, right? Because they understand what is happening in each piece. And as I've explained, the salt, fat, acid, and heat is market, traffic, and so on. So today, let's rub all that out. I wonder if I can increase the size on this texture a little bit. So today, we are going to be looking at market. Okay, and we're going to be creating our recipe to we're going to be creating our recipe to for this section of the market. So we're going to be generating tickets. By the way, what's a ticket? A ticket, I've been using this ticket for months. It's just been sitting in front of my thing. A ticket I refer to, well, it's actually physically a Post-it note, and it will eventually be physically a Post-it note for you guys too. But a ticket is a distinct chunk, little piece of work that can be done in a period of time of no greater than 50 minutes. Okay? Why 50 minutes? There is a whole bunch of, there's a whole bunch of of science which tells us that as a beginner, the maximum that you can concentrate on any activity is about 50 minutes. Right? So that is fantastic. Right? So that's why we use a ticket for about 50 minutes. But the other thing that I use, Post-its are perhaps some of the, and I should be a shill for 3M. I should get a sponsorship, seriously, because you have to use the real Post-it notes. Pro tip. We'll get into that when we start creating our boards a little bit later on. So this is the, wow, people in the chat are having a debate over whether this is live or recorded instead of concentrating on the message. That's just astounding. Wow. Wow. Talk about be here now, not. Goodness me. Jesus. Insane. It's just insane. You pay for this course and you're thinking, oh, is this recorded? Is this live? What is this? Okay. So one of the things that we do, a technique that we use for Post-its, is that we can use it to break down any process. And that's the process I'm going to do now. And for entrepreneurs, what's really critical, I'm doing this digitally so you can see everything and you can do it. But make no mistake, when I do this normally, I sit in front of stand in front of my standard whiteboard and I use Post-it notes and stick it up on the board. Right. And I encourage, you can do it with pen and paper right now, but down the track. So not am I only giving you the recipe, I'm showing you how the recipe is created. Okay. So here we go. Are you ready? Do you understand? Are you with me? Are you ready to go? Let me know in the chat. Fantastic. Very good. And if you're wondering why you can't see some comments and not the others, when I first logged on, I just had all panelists selected. If you select all panelists, you can send a message direct to me privately. If you select all panelists and attendees, which you should do as a general rule, then everybody sees the chat, just to let you know. Okay, very good. Okay, so here we go. Let's break it down together, right? When it comes to the market, there is only one thing that we need to understand for the market, right? As a master chef, there is only one question I need answers to. Will the market talk to me? That's it. Will the market talk to me? That is the fundamental test when you're looking at researching your chosen market. So we've got something now which is in your Ikigai, right? It is in your 4 areas of interest, right? And you've found evidence of it making money. Great. That's cool, because I know every market's a market, just some will be quicker than others, right? And the time that you take and the time you spend in recipe loops will determine how long it takes you in your business. But at the end of the day, I know you're there. So when we talk about market and what we have to do in the market section, we just have to understand, will the market talk to me? That is our key element, right? That is what we need to do. So what are the steps when we're breaking this down? What are the steps that we need to figure out how or will this market talk to me, right? So the first step, if you like, is, here we are, is where are they? Okay, where are they? That is a key question. Where are they? Right? We've got to find out where they are online. Where are they? That makes it, because we can't even ask them, we can't even figure out if they talk to me if we can't find them. If you can't find the tree in the forest, did it actually fall? Right? You need to find the tree to watch it fall. That's as deep as we'll get this morning. Okay, where are they? That's the first step, right? Okay. Our next step is, how can you reach them? How can you reach them? Because if we can find them, to be able to engage in some form of conversation, will they talk to us? We need to be able to initiate the conversation in some way, shape, or form, right? Makes sense? So we need to figure out how we can reach them. So that's important. Then what we need to do is, we need to, before we can have some, the typical way most people have a conversation online is through a message, or, can you get an email? Well, let's can you get an address? And for the purposes of online, as a general rule, there's 3, there's a few things, right? There is, by the way, if I haven't mentioned something, it's not important right now. Can you get an address? Right? This is Be Here Now. Can you get an address? And what type of addresses are there, right? There's typically, email. There's also Facebook Messenger. Right? There's phone. there's Skype. Anywhere where you can have a two-way communication. Right? So a billboard is not appropriate for this, right? Anywhere where you can have some form of two-way communication. Right? And different markets, one of these methods will be more appropriate than the other. Boo. Okay, and then once we figured that out, oops. Yes, good. Of course, fundamentally, we have to understand, will they talk? Because here's the thing. If they won't talk to you in any way, guess what? They're never, ever going to buy from you. Right? They are never, ever going to buy from you. Right? And this is something that's really super crucial when we're looking at, high fact finder entrepreneurs in particular want some evidence that they're not going to waste their time. Right? So one of the quickest, fastest, and easiest tests is to set up a situation where, okay, it's one thing to collect an email or some sort of message or communication things, right? You can often buy lists, right? So you don't even have to ask the person for their email or any of those sorts of things, right? So there are many, many, many ways of doing that, right? But ultimately, will they talk to you is absolutely the crucial element of this process, because if they won't talk to you, that market won't buy from you. All right. So we need a process for that. We need to figure out what are the ingredients for will they talk to you. All right. And then the final part, part that I have truly become very excited about, is this final part. Which is figure out their problems. Because what have all you high fact finders been asking all week? Oh, I don't know what product or service I'm going to do. Oh, I don't know. What am I going to build for them? I can't choose this market because I have no idea what they build for them. Good. That's bloody good. I'm glad you don't have an idea. Because if you think you have an idea, often it's wrong, right? You don't have an idea. And that's great. Figure out their problems. Now, problems is a bit of a negative word. Maybe I could use issues, challenges, whatever. I typically use problems first because people are far more motivated to fix a problem than, we are far more motivated to avoid pain than to seek pleasure. We'll quickly move to avoid pain, right? So and the old marketer in me realizes that that's often an easier path to go. Okay, so when we're looking at our final sort of elements, then we need to figure out their problems. So some of you were asking, well, what the groups are. So if we do this in a line, I know it's small, don't worry. At the top of our virtual board here, where are they? How can you reach them? So, zoom in. So where are they? How can you reach them? Can you get an address? Will they talk to you? Right? They are the fundamentals. And then, of course, figure out their problems. So when we're talking about the market section of our process, that's what we need to figure out. Okay, that is what is crucial. So does this make sense? Are you following along? Let me know in the chat. What's the insight that you've had so far with this? Let me know in the chat there. Makes sense. Good. Excellent. Find them and talk to them first. Very good. Following a system. It's all about structure and process. Not worrying about creating a product and just straight up asking what they need is going to be way more. Because here's the thing: if they're not even going to tell you their problems, they're not going to buy from you. And this is not a test. This is not a test for This is not a test for what type of product you get. Just literally no. In any market, you've got, if the customer is going to not even engage in a conversation, like if you have a metaphorical business and somebody walks into your business and you say, hey, what brings you in here today? Or the worst thing you can possibly say is, hi, can I help you? Oh no, I'm just looking. Right? Bad. But anyway, we're not here for sales retail training, right? But the point is, if you just use the old classic, hey, can I help you? And they just stare at you and then turn around and go off, right? Then guess what? Highly unlikely that they want to buy something today, right? Highly unlikely. Make sense? Good. All right. Excellent. So just like let's do our mise en place, which is prepare the various ingredients for each of these groups. So the first one is, where are they? So let's add another ticket into now. No, cancel. No. I'm driving this new tech. So let's delete group A. I want to add to group A. There we are, group A, tap. Edit, done. Group A, tap. Edit this out. Now I know if I tick that, and I tick that, and then I tick that, yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. So here we go. Just edit that out. So now we're looking at the where are they tickets. So guess what? I am going to give you, or we're going to do a 2-minute exercise, and I want you to come up with a bunch of ways about how you can figure out where is your market, right? How would you go about finding your market? I'm just going to give you 2 minutes on the clock, and I want you to jot down as many ideas about how you would personally go about you've got your market, right? You've got your Ikigai chosen market. How would you go about finding out where are they, right? What's some ideas for finding out where are they? All right. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Does that make sense, everybody? Let's just double check. Yep. Good. Thanks, Antone. Thanks, Deb. Very good. All right. Great. Here we go. Set a timer for 2 minutes.
Okay. 2 minutes and counting.
So what are all the possible ways that you could figure out how you could reach your market? Okay, you've got just over a minute. Okay, 10 seconds. All right, pens down. What I'd love you to do now, and if you can check that your little drop down is posted to all panelists and attendees. Yeah, stop that, Siri. Okay. I want you to have a look at your ideas for how you would figure out where your market is, and just take your favorite one and pop it on type message here. So we've got Amazon. What are people looking for? Google. Examine competitors on SimilarWeb. Google search, Facebook lookalike audiences. Forums, asking Facebook groups I belong to. Look at LinkedIn. Stack Overflow. Trade shows. Few Facebook groups, very good place. Homeschooling groups. LinkedIn groups. Industry groups, yes. Trade shows and the like. Instagram for people talking about the market. Quora, another excellent. So there are dozens of different places, right, that you could potentially look. Pinterest is another one, right? So there are dozens of places that you could use to look. So when we're looking at creating a ticket for this area, I'm just going to pick one of these. So if we use the, in my case, I had to figure out where people would be on Instagram, right? Now you can break any of those down. I could have picked Quora. I could have picked Reddit's, very good, Anton, nice choice, right? I could use any of these, but which one am I going to pick? So if you look at your list, pick the one which is easiest for you. Right? We want to make this easy, not hard. We don't want to learn an entire new, process for this. If we can figure out where a market is and where do they hang out by utilizing a method which we already know, doesn't it make sense to use that method? Right? Wouldn't it make sense to do it that way and make it easy for yourself? I would have thought so. So if we break this down, if I'm going to use, in my case, I'm just now doing this as an example, right? Is I'm going to create in breaking this down, I'm going to look at, okay, Instagram. Where are they? And guess what? I don't know. Right? I don't know where they are. No clue. Sad face. I do know, but I'm pretending that I have no clue. Right? Because if we've got no clue, we've got to break the ticket down further. So sad face. Don't know. All right, so let's add that in. So if they're, where are they? Instagram, where are they? And I have no clue how to find out how to identify whether there are groups in Instagram. So what am I going to do? Okay, now this is where, so if we look at this market, and typically, I'll do it in a vertical when I'm doing on a whiteboard. See if we zoom into our virtual whiteboard. When I'm doing this exercise on a whiteboard, typically I'll do it in a vertical. So I don't think I can't draw. Right. Group A, B, C, D, E, okay, are going vertically down. Okay, so across, if we go from left to right, okay, I want you to be very important. Left to right are the macro, the big chunks of this process. Where are they? All right, I can delete that note, and I can delete that note. And I can delete that group. So get rid of group F. So each group is vertical, is the way that I do this. So we've got the macro process, and then as we go down, we can break things up. And that's the beauty of this process, right? Because here we are, we're at Instagram, we have no clue. Fine. Let's just go back there, highlight group A, hit add. So what am I going to do first? Now we have to understand the concept of the ticket. Okay, so the 50-minute ticket. So what does a good ticket look like? And by the way, right, if you really want, and I really recommend this as a bonus, as part, well, it's more than a bonus, but as a bonus to this course, there is a companion course which you got for free, which is Kanban for Entrepreneurs. Okay, that's what the whiteboard behind me here, right? There's that one, and my main one actually is just out in the other room because, again, environment, but that's another topic for another time, right? So that is my Kanban board. And the concept of tickets and why tickets are so important there. But let me give you a brief part of the ticket. There are two elements to a ticket which are really, really important. Element one is one. What does done look like? That's element one. What does done look like? We need to because here's the thing. If you don't know what the finished state of your activity is, how the hell are you going to do it? People go into this stuff all the time, and it breaks my heart, right? If you don't know what done looks like, then how the heck are you even going to come up with a plan for doing it, right? It makes no sense. So when we don't know what done looks like guess what? Our first lot of tickets have to be about, well, we need to figure out what done looks like. So in this case, where are they? We need to figure out, does our market exist on Instagram? Right? And I'm using that as my example. I'm not suggesting you all use Instagram. I personally would use whatever you're strongest at in your particular set of experiences, right? I would feel free to use Instagram. It's a pretty bloody good one. But you can for sure use any of the where are they examples. All right. So what does done look like? And by the way, our next session is going to be all about helping you break down any of your tickets. So if you don't understand or you're not quite sure, in our next session, we're going to be literally getting you on, and I'm going to be helping you break down tickets so everybody can see this process in more detail. So don't stress if you don't get it 100% right now. I didn't. I still stuff up tickets, right? I still don't create them quite correctly, all right? Happens all the time. What does done look like is criteria one. And the second one, and this is the revolutionary one, is must be completed in 50 minutes. So a ticket which says write book is not a good ticket. I often, when I'm working with clients, we always use Kanban boards with clients because it's just a superb way for entrepreneurs to be able to track things, because traditional planners and software and planner books and all those sorts of things just don't work for entrepreneurs. I even bought a couple this week, and I know I'm not going to use them, but I love them so much, right? We love them, but we can't use them. It's just sad. It's a cruel, cruel world, right? It's just part of what we have to do. But here's the trick, right? Pardon me. Instead of breaking down, right, a task and just saying, what's the sales letter? What is the first chunk of that we can do in 50 minutes, right? And depending on your experience level, that could be a fair amount or it could be a tiny little amount. But whatever it is for you. So what does done look like? And it must be completed in 50 minutes. So in using that criteria, let's create a ticket. So if I have no clue how to find a group in Instagram, right? I have no clue whatsoever to figure out, effectively what we're saying is, how do we do market research on Instagram, right? That's what we're doing. So how would I go about doing that? You know what? I'm going to ask you. Okay, 2 minutes. How would I go about figuring out? I want you to come up with as many ideas as you can in the next 2 minutes of how would you go about finding it. So here, I'll even write it on here for you. How do I do market research on Instagram to figure out if my market is active on Instagram? Because if they're not active on Instagram, well, I need to choose another one of the many. I think there was 20 or 30 that were chosen there. I need to find another place. Maybe I need to go to Facebook. Maybe I need to go to YouTube. Maybe I need to look at Facebook groups. Maybe I need to look at Pinterest, right? I need to figure out where my group hangs out, right? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do I do market research on Instagram? So now, but I don't know, right? I have no, right? Just, you've got to pretend you're in a blank state. I have no idea, right? And Len's just said a great question here. How do I define active? How do I define active? So if I'm looking at this ticket, how do I do market research? That's one way, that's where most people would start. But if we're getting real clear about it, what does done look like? Done looks like is my group is active on Instagram. That's what I figure out what that is. But the trouble is, my group is active on Instagram. What if I don't know? If I look at that active and I go, hang on a second, I don't know what that word is. What do I do, people? Yes, you are spot on. I create another ticket. So I'm going to add this in, and then I'm going to add another ticket. I am going to use Google because if I have to think about how or where I'm going to research, then that's going to break into my precious time and I'm going to have the willpower problem. So I'm going to use Google to search for criteria about an active market on Instagram. Okay, you think that's a reasonable ticket. No, that ticket is a minefield, right? That is for high fact finders, that's an excuse to go away for 2 months and try to figure out what an active market is. Right? That's what they're trying to figure out. By the way, Mark makes an excellent point. First step, what is Instagram? If you don't know what Instagram is, why the hell is that going to be your first point of call for building this business? We're here. Let's never forget why we are here. We are here in market. Will they talk to us? Will my market talk to us? I'm using Instagram because I have a gut feel that Instagram is a good market for my market. Use whatever you know, right? Use whatever you know. This is the whole point. You've just got to understand this, right? The difference between this and other courses, the difference between the recipe is it's custom for you. And it's custom. You choose the market, the group area. Sorry, you choose the place where you're doing this hangout research in the place that you're most comfortable with. And if you have no clue what Instagram is, guess what? This is not the place for you, because guess what? You've got to spend ticket upon ticket upon ticket about learning how to do Instagram, sign up to Instagram. How does Instagram work? Right? That's 4 extra tickets. We've gone from 68 tickets to a $10,000 a month business to 72. And that's hoping that you can do it in 4 tickets. You see where I'm going here? Let's go to my strengths. Does this make sense? Am I making sense? Just let me know in the chat. Right, this is a completely different way of thinking about things. This is your recipe. Right? If you are saying, I don't know what Instagram is, then for the love of the deity of your choice, pick something that you know. Pick something that you know. Do not, for the love of all things of the deity of your choice, pick something that you have no clue about. Why would you do that? Well, why would you do that? We've all done it millions of times, right? Where we're starting from, and no wonder people get confused, and no wonder people get overwhelmed, and no wonder people get, do you see what I'm doing here? Right? The recipe is about using the ingredients for you, not for me, for you. And if you have no clue of the particular ingredient, like if I'm talking about, star of aniseed, and you have no clue what that thing is, right? Star of aniseed. Now, there's only 2 times that you would ever use that. One is if you're told specifically it doesn't work, or if you know, and a good recipe will tell you this, if you don't have access to star of aniseed because it's a very rare ingredient, guess what? You can utilize this as an alternative. Mary asked, I'm not really into the main places. Is there one easier to try than the others? No, it's however you interact online. You are in places. You are online. By definition, you use online. By definition, you've chosen a market that you love, right? So how are you already engaging with that market? That's where you choose, right? It's that simple. And by the way, if you can't think of any, then I've got to ask, is that a market that you should even be thinking about? Because again, you're just making it harder for yourself. Hopefully that makes sense. So back to this ticket. Use Google to search for criteria about an active market on Instagram. Here's the magic. You ready? Ready for this? High fact finders. You add in for 50 minutes. You give yourself a time box. This is the secret. All right, this is the secret. We know what done looks like. So we want to search for criteria about what's an active market on Instagram. I'm going to use Google, makes sense, right? If I was looking at something practical, I might have said, just look on YouTube for a video. But here, use Google to search for criteria about an active market on Instagram for 50 minutes. So at the end of this ticket, what does done look like? I have a definition, Len, of an active market. Cool. So we can continue on. Add. So if we just zoom in there just to see where we're at, we want to figure out where they are. I have chosen Instagram because I'm going for a higher degree of difficulty, because I'm showing you something that I want you to start off from the no clue perspective. Right, I've described what a ticket actually is. What does done look like? Must be completed in 50 minutes. So I started off doing this ticket. How do I do market research? And as Len pointed out, my group is active on Instagram. Well, what does active mean? So now I figured out what does active mean on Instagram. That's a ticket. So what's my next ticket, people? What do you think my next ticket is? Just pop it in the chat. How can you talk to them? Is my market active? Use the criteria to search on Instagram, but I'm not sure how that is, right? I don't know. Now, between you and I, right, I know that the way you do this is by searching hashtags. But if I didn't know how to do that, I'm just assuming I didn't. Guess what? I've created a ticket on how do I find my group on Instagram for 50 minutes. Cool. I've just added another ticket. Add. So I need to figure out how to find my group. Now, guess what? The good news here is I saved 50 minutes, right? But what if I discover inside of 10 minutes how to do it? Excellent. Guess what? Ticket. That's why we don't talk about times. We talk about tickets. I've just gone from 68 tickets to 67 tickets, and it only took me 10 minutes. Bonus. That's great, because there'll be other tickets that you hope will take 50 minutes and would actually take you longer than 50 minutes. That happens too, right? It just happens too. But if you give yourself a time limit, and I always use this baby, I always use my time timer, right? So I've got this big red, right? I've got this big red thing counting down. So I do not get lost in research for weeks. High fact finders in particular will get lost in research for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they'll figure out what's going on and how is that a problem, right? So that is what happens. So this way we've time boxed everything. So now we've got our last ticket. Just to remind you, how do I find my group on Instagram for 50 minutes? And then, okay, so all right, then if I figure that out, then I need to do bing, spend 50 minutes on Instagram. I'll use that. Researching. Actually, researching's bad. That feels, because we've got something. Because we now know seeing if my group is active. And guess what? You'll have my group. Now, I'm going to make this is made up. Alert, 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 right? But I've already, I will have spent 50 minutes figuring out what that active is. So, I would hashtag keyword volume. See if my group meets keyword volume criteria. So we've time boxed. We've got 50 minutes, key time box. And now we've broken down. We now have our specific criteria. Do you see how this works? So we've gone from, let's add that in. Let's have a look at our group A. Our goal is, where are they? I'm using Instagram, so I don't have a clue. So we've looked at our tickets. So when we start to get our tickets, how do I do market research on Instagram? How do I define active? So I've created our ticket. So our actual first ticket is this one. Use Google to search for criteria about an active market on Instagram for 50 minutes. What's our criteria? I need to figure out what is our criteria. So I'm going to research that. How do I find my group on Instagram? I've allowed myself a time box of 50 minutes because that's the default, right? And then I'm spending 50 minutes on Insta to see if my group meets the keyword volume criteria. Cool. So one of two things will happen at this point, right? They either will meet the criteria or they won't meet the keyword. Joachim, stay with the program, buddy. What's the keyword volume? It's immaterial. It's immaterial. I'm making this up. It's about breaking it down for whatever it is you need to research. You need to figure, how do you know? How do I know? I have no idea. I'm researching. That's why I've created the tickets. Okay, I said I'm making this up, right? Just to show a point. I really wouldn't know what this ticket says until I've searched for my active criteria. This is a linear process. And do you see how people get stuffed, right? Do you see how you get stuffed? Right? Because they think about this ticket here, they go, oh my goodness, I don't, is my group on? When they haven't broken down the criteria of figuring out the Google stuff. Barbara's asking a question. I don't know the difference between talkers and buyers. Have we talked about that yet? Have we talked about it? Our ticket, let's remind us, is where are they? Is there anything in that criteria? Is there anything in that criteria, anything at all, which talks about anything other than where are they? There's not. And that's the power of this process. That's about, how do we know when to stop? See when this red stuff, see when the red stuff goes to zero and it dings? If you've given yourself 50 minutes, that's stop. You put pens down. You are not allowed to do any more work. Can you see why people get so overwhelmed and so in trouble? They're never thinking, this is business meditation. This is business mindfulness. I've got a 50-minute period. I've got a 50-minute period, right? I'm home from work. I've used a lot of energy during the day. I've got one 50-minute period in me. If I'm spending all this time with business entrepreneurial anxiety by thinking about, my group on Instagram, I don't know. But how do I research Instagram? You're gone. You're dead. I go home. I look at, what is my next ticket? What's the next part of this recipe? I pull that ticket, stick it on my board here, and all I do is use Google for 50 minutes. I've given myself the criteria, and that's all I do. That's all I do. And guess what? After I finish that ticket, my business has just gone from a 68 ticket business to a 67 ticket business. I am one step closer to having my business built, because I haven't fretted about all the things that are coming down the pipe. I haven't fretted about all the things, because guess what? How can you reach them is our very next question. Right? This is Group A. Remember? Go back here, tick. We do have Group B, C, D, and E here. I didn't forget. Right? And this is taking a long time because I'm explaining as I go. But what you have there is, so Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. So guess what we're going to do? I'm going to do one more with you now. And then I want you to have a go at seeing if you can fill in Group C and D. And guess what? Good news. I know you're asking. All you high fact finders are already having a panic attack. Oh my God, I haven't got those post-it notes and I haven't got the group of what the B, C, and D is. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm going to do a PDF straight after this. All right, don't panic. It's all right. What if my market is on Facebook, but I'm internally awkward on Facebook? Don't use Facebook. It's not in your ikigai. You'll have to find another way. The world had businesses before Facebook, and let me tell you, the world will have businesses after Facebook. There you go. Something in that for all of us. All right. So right now, one of two things has happened in this, but I'm doing the process here. So we're going to assume success because we're building a recipe, right? We're creating a recipe. We still have to test the recipe. That's a different thing. That's a different lesson, you high fact finders, right? Right now, this is just the planning stage. So we've determined, as it turns out, that yes, my group is active because I've utilized the research I found here in our Group A, aka Where Are They process. Now I have to figure out how can I reach them, right? So what are the ways that I can reach my market in this particular thing? I have no idea. So guess what I'm going to do? First of all, what does reach mean? How can I reach them? So can I advertise? Can I get in front of them in some ways? So what I don't know is, what are the ways I can get my message in front of people on Facebook? Now, I am a master chef. I just can't get enough of me saying that. So not true in real life, but from a person. So here's just a couple of things I know about this particular part. There will typically be a content way of doing it and a paid way of doing it. That's because I'm a master chef and I know that. So I'm looking for fundamentals. You may not know the fundamentals. So if you don't know the fundamentals, you would go Google, what are the ways I can get I wrote Facebook. In my case, it was Instagram. By the way, people might be asking, why Post-it notes? Because this Post-it note is a great constraint mechanism. If you can't fit your task on a Post-it note, you need to break it down. You absolutely have to break it down. So Google, what are the ways I can get my message in front of people on Instagram? And what's the magic formula? What's the magic formula? Particularly for high fact finders. For 50 minutes. Correct. Well done. 2 points for Gryffindor, for Barbara, John, Michael, Alex, Craig. Well done. So we've figured out, and what are the ways that people get into Instagram? We're going to figure that out. 50 minutes. So I have to figure out how do I create engaging content? So I need to start researching. So this is, John, perfect. I like limiting rabbit holes to 50 minutes, right? So what makes an engaging post on Instagram? Now, you could actually break this down. Somebody would say, I have to use this platform, but I know nothing about. Let's argue for a second that was the case. How would you do that? Well, let's look at this. What makes an engaging post on Instagram? Well, guess what? We've got a definition here which we don't understand. Engaging. So what will we do, folks? Pop it in the chat. Google what engagement looks like. You're starting, make a ticket, like Miriam, create a ticket. Well done, Laurie. Fantastic. To define engagement. Are you smelling what the rock is cooking? Right? If you're uncertain, guess what? That means a new ticket. Yes, and it smells good. Miriam, I love it. Very good. So what does good engagement look like? Now, get this. Let's amp up the ticket. Look like when I am starting out. Because you could look at established Instagram influencer and you see that they have 500 likes and 700 comments, blah, 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 right? And what does good engagement look like when I am starting? What does good engagement look like when I am starting out on Instagram? So when you're beginning, you need to know what good engagement looks like. Right? I'd probably Google that as a general rule for 50 minutes. Time box it so we don't get distracted. And add. Right? So as we go down, are you seeing the process now? Okay. Are you seeing the process? By chunking these tickets down and breaking them down, we know what our macros are, to use another thing, right? We know what our meal, our proteins, our fats, our carbohydrates, and our fiber should look like for this market. And they are, where are they? How can you reach them? Can you get an address? And will they talk to you? They are the key elements of that. So we need to chunk those down and we need to only focus on each of those. So then we go into our first group and we've broken down that group. And just for clarity there, 1, 2, we're at 3 tickets so far, right? Then how can we reach them? right now we've got to look at what makes an engaging process, what does good engagement, and then we might have to look at creating a post on Instagram. But again, I'm hoping that you've picked here, way back here, when we were selecting at where are they, and you were going to look for a particular thing. I'm hoping you pick something to your strength, right? So this, and I'm going to even write it in red here, so when you see the PDF, you're going to see it. Pick your strength. This is crucial. If your strength is YouTube, pick YouTube to do this exercise, right? You can totally do this. And what's going to be fun in the next session, and that's why we're on Zoom, for those of you who had to know, is I'm going to bring you online. So if you've got a headset and a microphone and you want to join in the fun, we could also, I've also done this where you can just type your ticket in the chat and I can help you out there. But sometimes it's nice to get feedback and questions, and I'll be good. I promise. I'll be nice. I will, truly. Right? I want you to be able to get used to breaking these down. So the goal is, our goal for the end of the week, by the end of the week, we have got these tickets. Looks like I need to buy another 1,000 post-it. That's expensive, 1,000 post-it. You don't need anything like 1,000 post-it notes, right? One of those 5 block, that'll be more than enough. Right? So that's, and I should say I am doing this digitally on my magnificent iPad Pro, but I would never do this when I'm actually doing this process in the real world. I'm using a Sharpie, I'm using Post-it notes, and I'm using a whiteboard. But you feel free, you can just jot these down right now. Okay, that's totally fine. So your goal now is, I'm going to, for you North Americans and Europeans, you'll be going to bed, and sometime overnight, the email ferry is going to arrive, and it's going to deliver you this PDF. So to give you as a little bit of a guide with Group A, and I'll finish Group B for you. And then I want you to go and finish Group C and D. Don't worry about Group E just yet, because that's a particular, I want to demonstrate something else on our next session, right? On session 4 on Thursday evening, right? So I'm going to show you something else, all right? Because I think that's a fascinating process that is appropriate for any, doesn't matter whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Anywho, so that's what we're going to do. I want you to have a crack at filling out C and D, and then we are going to be able to, from there, we are going to be able to then go figure out your Post-it notes. I'm going to help you with your Post-it notes on Thursday. And by the end, we'll have somewhere here in the range of, I'll make a guess. Say we'll have somewhere in the range of 10 to 20 tickets or thereabouts, right? 10 to 20 tickets. Guess what? Come January 1, we've got our first, for most of you, that's, well, depending on how fired up you are, right? For a lot of you who are on a 2 or 3 ticket cadence, you've got your first 3 or 4 weeks all processed. Boom, shakalaka. How cool is that, right? And then we will continue on, and we'll continue to build out the recipe, right? So by the end of this week, we'll have the complete market selection area completely knocked off, right? And we'll have the process for you to determine whether that market is in place. And I will explain too, don't you worry, I won't leave you hanging. I'll explain what happens if you do test your market. Where are they? How can you reach them? Will they talk to you? And if that fails, what happens? Okay. If the experiment is not a success, what do you do? All right. So we'll cover all of that in our next session. Very good, Gary. Pick one of your other ones. Yeah. Thank you. Next. So I'm so hip with the kids. Hashtag hipster, hashtag hype beast. That's me. All right, folks, what I would love to hear from you as we wind up this session is, what was your biggest insight from today? What is your people realize that this is not just a hype beast, true hype beast. Know that what I'm wearing is not just a beanie. Let's have a look. Will they talk to me? Structure is king. Playing to your strengths. Chunk down remorselessly. Love it. Baby steps. Market is not a something, but it's a process. Very good. I didn't realize how far down these tickets can be broken to be manageable. Fantastic. Definition of done can be a time box. Absolutely, Craig. For a lot of research-based activities, it has to be that way. And copywriting too, I might add. When we get into beast, very good. Yeah. Learning how to chunk things down to manageable levels. Love the time box. It's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. You've got to give yourself a timer. I want to get ahead of the process. This shows me I need to slow down and make sure I have key limes before the garnish. That's so important. John, that is not an AFL beanie. If it would be, I would have no problems wearing it, but it would be my Western Bulldogs beanie. Knowing my anxieties are just things I haven't clarified. Bingo. That's a beautiful thing. I'm going to steal that because that is what it is that how do you turn something from uncertain to certain? Is that you create tickets and you use tickets to move that certainty down, right? So, and that's what's so exciting about it. So when I give you recipes, as I will, don't worry, I'm showing you the process behind the process, right? So you're getting both. You're getting a recipe and you're getting the process of how to build a recipe at the same time. But as on Thursday, when we go into our content area, like how do we find problems, I'm going to present you with a complete recipe, right? So you're going to have a followed recipe. And then I'm going to show you how to break down when you get a recipe, I'm going to show you how to break down, because there'll be parts of that recipe that you don't understand. Like you don't understand what blanch the cabbage means, right? Or, dissect the star of aniseed. Or whatever. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Awesome session. I will see you next Thursday, or if you're watching this in the course, see you in the next session. Make sure you break down, if you're watching this later, make sure you break it down. So do the work so that you can, you get the benefit. All right. Ciao for now, everybody. Awesome. Speak soon.